Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Battle.Like Gamer, and today we're going to be giving our final thoughts on our run-through with Blades in the Dark. If you haven't seen our one-shot yet, go check it out. It's really cool. We did a Session 0 and the actual one-shot if you want to see how the game is played, at least from the perspective of a group who's trying it out for the first time. Blades in the Dark is a wonderful game. The setting is perfect. It's a grim, dark kind of setting in a world with no sun. The sun blew up. And everything is powered by Tesla towers that themselves are powered by the blood of demon whales. It's really good. There's lots of ghosts, and it is set in a very late 1900s, late 1900s, no, late 1800s setting with all the kind of the beginning and advent of steam engines and the like, and all kinds of really great things. It's truly a wonderful game. And this is a game that plays very differently than your standard tabletop games. Now, I'll go ahead and give my final thoughts at the end here, but we're going to go ahead and see the player interviews before I finally give what my thoughts are on Blades in the Dark. But before we get into that, if you're enjoying this video, please leave a like. These videos don't do that well, and I feel that's a shame because I feel like a lot more people would like to know about the games that are out there. So help promote this by leaving a like or subscribing if you want to see more videos like this. You can also join our Discord linked down below, where we talk all things tabletop, including war games like Warhammer 40k. And if you want something a little less committal, I have a Twitter that you can follow just so that you can keep up to date with what's going on. But let's go ahead and get to the player interviews. Hello.
Hey.
All right. Welcome to the interview. Did you have fun today playing some Blades in the Dark?
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this.
Good. I'm glad. It's been a ride so far. So, tell me a bit about your impressions of the game.
I think I could make this my primary game.
Really?
Yeah. I think that once you know what you're doing, you can have a lot of stories with this. And I really like how the stories you're telling, you're not drawing out a huge campaign, but you can still do a long-term game with it. I like even though we didn't explore it really, I like the mechanics of having like the faction politics,
Mm-hmm.
and you can still leave an impression on the city, right? And you can still have an effect on the world, but everything can still be contained. So I think this would be great for groups, especially if someone like for me, for example, like I have kids, so sometimes I can't show up to a session or I have to leave in the middle of a session like I did earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This could be great for a group that has a couple people like that. They don't have to always be there to still have an impact.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay. Well, then, I guess, what would you rate this game on a scale of 1 to 10 for yourself?
I'll say an 8,
An 8.
with the caveat that we didn't explore it to its fullest extent, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not like I have a huge review, but I do like the way it's positioned, and I like how flexible it can be while also giving everyone a niche. So for me, it's an 8.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. For sure. And I guess I should phrase that as, like, for a first impression, uh, how much you like the game. I think that's a better way of putting it. But all right. Um, was there anything about the game that you didn't like? Anything that rubbed you the wrong way, or any of the mechanics that you just didn't kind of like?
The only thing that would be a hang up for a group, I think, is the game is very vague. So
Mm-hmm.
you would have to work out with your GM what types of bonuses are expected and what aren't. For example, right at the end there, I was trying to use the spark dose to circumvent having to roll a check. So I was trying to like offer to sacrifice a resource to just auto succeed. You didn't pick up on the clue where you just downright denied it, so we rolled the check anyway, and that's fine. But I think conversations like that should happen in advance of a group playing this kind of game, so that way everyone knows what to expect and it doesn't shift too much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Vagueness and rulings are just inherently going to cause problems at any table, uh, because if the game doesn't tell you something works in a particular way, how can you know?
Yeah, and it's not a fault against you or the game. It's just something that needs to be addressed on a group by group basis.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, vague rules, which it's understandable. What was the role you were trying to fill in the group, and did you feel like you're able to accomplish that?
I originally was trying to go for like the trap setter. That's why I picked the saboteur special ability. However, the archetype that I was still going for was like the utility guy and being prepared for changing situations, being adaptable. And I felt that I filled that niche pretty well. I was tying off ropes. I had grenades. I had different oils. I even had a spirit lamp. So I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was a good wild card to have.
So you felt like you were able to really at least play at the utility part of the character.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, okay. Let's see here.
And also, if I can interject, I also felt the weakness of not being completely statted out for combat. It was nice to have that double-edged sword, where even though I was a Swiss Army knife for a lot of things, I was effectively useless in combat.
Yeah, I don't know. It definitely the game plays very strangely in some ways, and it's very hard to dictate what exactly. I mean, what is combat in this game? It's not very explicit. You can do a lot of things depending on the scenario. So I don't know, but yeah, that I mean that you felt like there was at least choices that were being made that were not like overly homogenized over all the roles, which is good.
Yes, and I felt like I had a place on the team, and none of us felt overpowered. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's true. Okay. Well, then, how likely would you be to recommend this game to someone else on a scale of 1 to 10?
10. I mean, I'm probably gonna try to convince my girlfriend to play this, and she's not a tabletop gamer at all. So
Okay.
I think this is pretty approachable even for someone that's new because of how flexible and vague it can be.
Okay. So, very good for anyone to try, even if they're not a tabletop player. That's a really good recommendation. All right. Is there any final thoughts you want to give on the game?
Like I said with the first half of the session zero, I think this is great for a West March game. I think this
Mm-hmm.
is great for anyone that wants something casual or like a great fallback game. I could see anyone running this like if their regular game falls out or whatever else. So don't sleep on it. I think it's a great choice.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Hello.
I have been chosen, I see.
You have been chosen.
Hello again.
Sorry?
I said hello again, Cameron.
Hello. So, how'd you enjoy the game?
Chaos. Chaos unending. But that's kind of just this game. I had fun. I generally do playing with you guys though.
That's fair. That's fair. Now, I'm aware you've played a little bit before, right? Was it just like one session before or something?
Yeah, like I've watched and listened to some just because there's some good podcasts out there for it. I played a play-by-post version.
I see. I see. I guess how different was that experience then, if at all different?
Um, it flowed a lot better just because, there's a lot more time before people have to like post something because it kind of just runs at whatever pace. So people had more time to be more creative and kind of think things through. And so it flowed a lot nicer and had a bit more of a coherence to it. But once we got the hang of it, it was just pretty much how it goes. The difference mostly was that because it was intended to be a campaign and because it was written, we could do a lot more with our characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of that characterization kind of comes through on when you actually when it matters and in your downtime.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of that. I mean, it's a very narrative game, so
Yep.
a single score really doesn't. properly I represent what the game is actually about. But we did mess with a good number of the systems, played around with it, had some fun, had some laughs. So how would you rate your first impressions actually playing the game in like a tabletop setting, scale 1 to 10?
I feel like it's severely hampered by the fact that, like, as a one shot, you don't really get to feel the impact of like the system with, crews and coins and your layers and your vices and obligation or whatever those might be, your friends and your enemies. Like, so many parts of the system are really dependent on it being an ongoing narrative game. Being a one shot, while fun and chaotic, makes it, I feel like it makes it kind of toothless in a way. So playing it as a one shot,
Well,
it's
before you answer that, I guess, speaking purely from like the system perspective, like as your first impression in like a live setting, how the game ran and everything like that, like, did you like how the game was running, mechanically speaking? Because I know, like, on the grand scale, a first impression isn't going to ever capture the true light of any game. But what people
yeah.
want to know is like, when you were playing the game in the session, did it feel good?
I mean, once we got going with it, like, because everything is simple once you figure it out, it's really satisfying and a lot more a lot faster than, say, combat and some other systems that we play. So it
True.
feels good. It doesn't like take you out of the flow once you get things going. And it's really simple. You just learn, it's basically just like the terminology holds people back because it's
Mm-hmm.
unfamiliar, and then like the sheer amount of freedom can hold people back. But I'd say it's an 8 because it's an easy system to approach. It's fun. You can get pretty much anybody into it,
That's fair. Okay.
and
Was
it's not like
there?
it runs hard. So
Yeah, we had some fun today for sure. Is there anything about the game that you didn't like, or how it was done? Did anything rub you the wrong way?
not particularly. I'm already pretty aware of Blades in the Dark systems. Admittedly, I had to ask questions and look it up a couple times because it's been a hot minute
Hmm.
since I've played. But no, not particularly. I know that it can be a little frustrating, like getting used to it as a player or a DM who's been in a game that has a lot more crunch or a lot more like abilities. And if you don't have this feat or whatever, like there's not really a way for you to do it. So we'll just kind of cobble together something. This is like everything's cobbled together. Don't worry about it. Just make it cool. Do it. Go, 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 go.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it doesn't really bother me.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, what was the role you were trying to play with your character, and did you feel like you were able to accomplish that?
Played the muscle. We didn't end up actually having to like fist fight anybody, and did pretty well at least once we got past the initial trip on dealing with the blue coats. But the last bit with the speedboat came through with the ability I wanted, which is like, how the fuck did that tiny guy do all that? Uh, so I got what I wanted in the end. Not exactly how I was expecting it, but drugs, man.
Yeah, well, this is how the game goes. Nothing goes according to plan in Blades in the Dark.
I said teamwork makes the dream work, Cameron, but I was lying. It was drugs.
It was the drugs.
Don't tell them.
Only
I don't
the
want to crush them.
drugs. Well, then I guess how likely would you be to recommend this game to someone else? Scale 1 to 10.
I want to eat this setting like candy. It's delicious. It's fun. It's unique. It's really good. It has like some really solid touchstones to setting aesthetics. If you have a group that wants to do not even just like crime or just interested in the setting, but a lot of the hacked in the dark like systems, they all run like this. Their rules are rules light. It's pretty much just down to how creative your players and your DM are. So if you want to just go ham and not have to crunch numbers, this is the perfect system for it. It is chaos. It can be as gritty as you want, as silly as you want. Yeah, I think it's just a perfect, easy system. If you like crunch, you probably won't like this if that's like necessary for what you want to get out of a game. But Blades in the Dark does what it does really well, which is make it feel all of the ups and down chaos conflict of watching a TV show of a bunch of idiots trying to do crime in a hellscape world.
So like a 8, 9, 10 on a scale of recommendation for at least trying it out.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else, it's not like it takes long. You run through it a little bit, decide if you like the feel of it or not, and you don't waste much in it because unlike other systems where you would have to invest more time into learning the system to be able to try it out, Blades in the Dark is super easy to just pick up and run it one day. Also really good for getting people into tabletop who are scared of crunchy systems. Where you're just like, no, come on, just play a story with me.
Then I guess any final thoughts you have on Blades in the Dark you want to tell the audience?
I think I've said most of my piece and opinion on it, both in the session 0 and in this one. So I like Blades in the Dark more than anything. I kind of really like its setting. I highly suggest people to steal the clock system for keeping track of factions and tug of war stuff. It's really good for keeping that in a DM's mind if you struggle with like a living world where you have lots of different NPCs and different factions at play. It's a super easy way to track that and communicate it to your players, though they don't always get to see those clocks. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
I was talking.
Well, too bad. We're on the clock.
Well, we are.
All right. So, how'd you enjoy the game?
I think this is a really interesting system, and I don't think it is my my favorite one we've done, but I really what this game is doing.
That's fair. Okay, well then I guess we'll get right into it. What do you rate your first impressions on the game from a scale of 1 to 10?
Solid 8.
Solid 8. All right.
Solid 8.
So you said it wasn't really your cup of tea necessarily. Why do you rate an 8?
I'd give it an 8 because I think it's I think for doing one session, it is this game is like out of all of the ones we've played, the worst suited for the format we did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if we had done like a 5-session thing, like 5-10 sessions, my opinion would like increase of this. I see the potential that like us specifically and like our style playing this game, like what it would bring. I just think of absolute first impressions, one shot is the worst way we could have done it, sadly, knowing full well there's no other alternatives we feasibly could have done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but still, like, as far, and this has come up with several other people as well, but like your impression of like the system and like how it run, because the score is kind of like the all right, now we need to put our money on the table kind of part of it.
That's fair. I would still say 8. I think the rules are really fun, that they lead to a lot of interesting player agency of coming up with things that fit narratively and not having like a rule there to fully tie you down. Like, I like the idea of the flashback system and how equipment is done. I like the whole, I have this many equipment slots, so that way you're not just like spending all your money for items you're never going to use. You just have the right items at the right time to keep the narrative flowing, rather than pausing, figuring out like, okay, now did you attribute to this and this and this rule? Instead, it's keeping up the narrative flow like you're doing something cool cinematically.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of that is the strong suit of this.
Okay. Well, speaking on strong suits, what was there any part of this game that you didn't like? Any part of the system that kind of rubbed you the wrong way? Like, I don't know, anything that just didn't really suit you?
I would not say there's anything that really like rubbed me the wrong way or didn't suit me. I'd say the closest that there is God, I really need to figure out those 4 teamwork actions, because a lot of that was me fully just being like, I don't fully get some of it until like the end. I was like grab my head around it. It just took a bit to like work through that system. Because there's just like, and also like it's one of those things where I would need more time to get myself sorted, because it was like getting bombarded with, all right, because you can roll this, now you can roll this, and now you can roll this thing, and that was like immediately like, I don't know what's going on. I'm being overloaded with information. Getting used to it would solve that. That is like the only part that like got me for this.
Okay. So there was just a little bit of a learning curve starting out.
Learning curve, and it's like, it feels like for that part, it's like being thrown in the deep end of something. You'll learn it in time, but while you're learning it, you're like, oh god.
That's fair. Okay. What role were you trying to fill with your character, and do you feel like you were able to do it?
Trying to go for like the mastermind style, like the person who's like planned for things and can, you know, be kind of like a help getaway driver. And you know what? Of those navigation roles, I'd say I did really well and effective. I did great, obviously.
Obviously.
It honestly chalked up to bad rolls that denied me from being fully on the position that I could have been. And I also feel like if I played this style of role again with a tighter grasp of the system, I probably could have done more. But of course, I can't really do much when I'm failing coin flips. You're reminding me of all my tournament custodian performances, where like legitimately my results are because I failed coin flips. This is some bad flashback scam.
Yeah. What can I say? This game literally is just like coin flip on whether you actually succeed or fail, and then like a slightly smaller chance that you succeed with no penalties. So it's definitely interesting when it comes to assessing costs in this game, for sure. All right, well then I guess how likely would you be to recommend this game to someone else?
Oh, super likely.
Like in scale 1 to 10.
10.
10.
This is definitely one that I actually have like a good chunk of friends who play Blades in the Dark. So like the people that I do communicate and like talk about tabletop stuff with, like have played or have heard very good things about and have talked very good things about. So like I would fully talk about and recommend Blades of the Dark to people. I think it's a super fun system. I think there's a lot of just options there for really fun role play and creating these like super cool narrative cinematic moments that I think is a lot harder pressed in some other stuff if your DM's not fully accommodating. Because this game really is suited to get you in the action, get you in these moments, and just get everything as best as you can. As you're not being like, I think immediately I was like more hooked once you told us like this system takes out the planning segment, because goddamn, how many D&D sessions have we done where it's 3 hours of planning?
Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, there was still a fair amount of planning in this.
Not as much though.
There was a point where I'm just like, okay, guys, don't sweat the details. Just tell me the when, where, and how, and we're gonna go, because this game doesn't really care about anything else.
Yeah, and like obviously that's the difference of like growing with pains of like, yeah, we've played all these systems where we've had to do this. I think the idea of a system that takes that out and drops you in media res is really cool. I am super into this. Because you know me, my biggest pain with a lot of tabletop stuff is in a lot of just, I guess, realism rules in general, is how needlessly tedious they can get. And this cuts out tedium for just cinematic storytelling. So it's immediately on it's in my good books.
That's fair. All right. Well, I guess any other final words you have about the system that you'd like to share with the audience?
This is a cool aesthetic. Play Dishonored. That's really it.
Fair enough. All right. So, what are my thoughts on Blades in the Dark? Well, Blades in the Dark is a really wonderful rules light system that can be really easy to get into. It took us probably about an hour to properly describe and make characters, and then after that, playing the actual game itself, we pretty much did a whole mission in a one-shot, which, if you know the channel, and one-shots in general, that's pretty rare. This is a great pick up and put down game to play as you deem fit. Not only that, but there are mechanics that we didn't even get into with this playtest that allows players to really kind of drop in and come and go as they please if you have a very inconsistent tabletop group. It's very good for a group that's very reliant on improvisation and are not as interested in crunchier mechanics. For me personally, this is not my go-to kind of game. I do like games that offer a lot more when it comes to help, especially when it comes to how the skill checks work. A lot of it is just bargaining with the DM to let you roll a certain check or having abilities that allow you to roll certain kind of skill checks. And from my personal opinion, it really feels like it can get boiled down to just what your DM can let you get away with, which is really good, but it also makes certain builds not as efficient when a lot of the same things can be done by characters with other build styles. It's something that I personally am not a big fan of, but this game does offer a lot, and as you could hear from a lot of my players, their first experience with it was an 8 out of 10, which is a lot. And something I need to mention as well, we did not even touch one of the core systems, which is the downtime activities, building up your gang's base and what you're doing, and a lot of the social political stuff that happens in between missions. You're constantly balancing your rep with other groups in the city, and the setting is really well done. There is so much that goes into the Blades in the Dark setting that you can really feel immersed in the experience overall, which is really good. And if you're really into that deep immersive storytelling with a bunch of groups that you have to manage your rep with, and you like the ideas of base building with your tabletop game, then this might be the game for you, and I highly recommend that you check it out. I do know, and I'm sure a lot of you out there feel that these one-shots don't really give you an accurate feeling, especially when such a big part is not represented there, but I do feel like first impressions do mean a lot when it comes to checking out a game for the first time and to see how the game overall flows. Blades in the Dark flows really well, and while it lacks the structure that I prefer in my tabletop experience, I have to admit we had a lot of fun. If you check out our one-shot, we were absolutely having a blast. We were laughing towards the end of it, and it was a great time. For a one-shot, it was probably one of the best one-shots that I've done here on the channel, but that still leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to just how much the GM really has to make the story work. This game particularly does heap a lot onto the GM, making them have to improvise even how the rules are interpreted without any clear guidance. And that's something that's important for a GM to look at when getting into a new game themselves. Now, if you're really good at improvisation, if you're not a very rules heavy person, you're kind of a go with the flow, make sure everyone has fun kind of GM, I'm sure Blades in the Dark is for you. But if you're getting into Blades in the Dark for the very first time as a GM, this game is going to leave you with a lot more questions than the book offers answers for, and that can be a little bit rough. So from a GM perspective, I'm going to give this game a solid 6 out of 10 for my general interpretation of it. I think it's a great game. I think it offers a lot of flexibility, but the lack of structure and how some things work and just how much you have to monitor sometimes with the different political wheels and all that kind of stuff really can make this an overwhelming experience for some GMs. Regardless, it's a really good time, and the players can really aid you when it comes to what they want to bargain for and all that kind of stuff. The book also offers a lot of room for the players to help arbitrate the rules and not just heap everything onto the GM, which I find is nice. And I would say I would rate this a 10 out of 10 as far as trying it out. I would say everyone try this out. The setting is really good. The characters feel really fun. And the book gives you, even just the core book, gives you so much when it comes to making your character, where they're from, how to set up their backgrounds, getting you immersed in the world. There's a lot of in-person writing in this book, and the rules are presented in a very easy to consume way. So I do think this game is a really fun game and one that everyone should try out. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.